If it has teeth, it might bite. And if it's about to bite you, you might want to get out of the way or find a way to defend yourself. But what is more threatening? A bear, a mountain lion, a lion, a leopard? We are going to try to figure it out because we have with us a professional hunter from Africa who knows all about the dangers of the toothy animals in Africa. And I've got a little experience with those in the States. Let's all get together and discuss this and find out which ones are most dangerous, African carnivores or North American, on this episode of Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast. Hey guys, welcome. I think this is going to be a fun topic because we all know the horror stories of bears eating people, cougars eating people, lions, oh my gosh. So is it really as bad as we think it is, or are we overhyping it a bit? And are the African lions and leopards more dangerous than mountain lions and bears over here? So Werner Von Seydlitz is a professional hunter in Africa, and that means something because how many years do you have to study before you get to be one?
It's about a 3-year study before
3-year study?
So you become an apprentice. I had the privilege to become an apprentice for my dad from an early age, and then you can only legally write your examination with the age of 18.
Mm-hmm. And then you have to actually go in the field if you want to be taking people out for dangerous game, Cape buffalo, elephants and stuff. You've got to done that.
You have to do an additional license in Namibia, which is big game hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you first start off as a hunting guide, then become a master hunting guide, then a professional hunter. So if you do that route, I had the privilege that I could become a professional hunter because I had an apprenticeship with my dad, and we have a company, so I could be a professional hunter from the beginning or write my exam to become a professional hunter. And then after a lot of experiences hunting with big game hunters, I wrote my big game hunting license, so I'm now a big game professional hunter in Namibia.
So what species over there of dangerous game have you hunted?
I've hunted the leopard, I've hunted buffalo, elephant, hippo, and lion. I've been on the hunts. Didn't have the privilege to guide one myself, but I was part of one. A lion hunt that my 375 was used for, and what an amazing hunt and knowledge you need for it.
Now, we want to talk about what's going to eat you. This is the big boogeyman, scary stuff. And let's not kid ourselves. This happens. I mean, people get killed and eaten by predators, same these years as 4,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We've got a more defense now than we had back then, more options. But what are some stories about, let's say, lions? I always think of the African lion as being the big boogeyman over there.
So the lion typically will only attack people if it's wounded or it's aged.
Really?
And if they are in the vicinity of human villages or human, and they're in an age where they're struggling to catch any prey,
Mm-hmm.
they might tend to go for human. So the typical hunt that a lion will attack you just out of the blue is really a 90% that it might not happen.
Yeah.
So it is a very dangerous animal if it is wounded by a trophy hunter or by a snare. Nowadays, with all the poaching going along, you have to expect that a lion or a leopard could be in a snare or maybe were in a snare, and that they could attack you. But the typical lion leopard will try and get out of your way. It's not going to just charge you without a reason.
Now, you grew up in Africa.
Yeah.
Have you ever been threatened by a lion?
I've never been threatened by a lion or a leopard. Being out on the ranches, we don't have any lions there anymore, so we mainly have leopard and cheetah and hyenas. So no, in all the years of growing up and hunting and being out with my friends and later guiding, I never had a situation where a leopard just attacked me out of the blue. I've seen quite a number of them, and it was beautiful to see them and how they moved off, but never had one attack other than when they were wounded. I had a couple of hunts where it got pretty exciting. With a leopard, I shot a leopard under my dad, and it was pretty close. And yeah, so it is dangerous, and you need to respect those.
But that's
animals.
when you're hunting and engaging, but otherwise they pretty much leave you alone.
They pretty much leave you alone.
See, now that's what's different about our cougar. Now, to my knowledge, a cougar and a leopard are roughly the same size.
Yeah.
We talk about a really huge old male cougar might hit 200 pounds. Would that be about right for
That's
leopard
about
too?
the same depending on the area where you find them, but that's about the weight you can expect on a big male. The females are half the weight. And yeah, it's amazing how to see these big, strong, muscular animals move around.
You know, what's always interested me about leopards in Africa is that they don't have a reputation for killing people.
Yeah,
Have you ever heard of anybody being attacked and killed
Yes,
by one?
I have. Very few cases. But the same, they were either aged, wounded, or hurt.
Okay.
And that's why they were attacking people. And then we've got a big problem with the research, which is important for all of us, with our researchers handling these cats and doing the research measurements and everything. With cats being handled too much or handled a lot, they tend to get used to the humans around them, and then there's a bigger chance that they lose the respect to human and might attack.
Oh, okay. But lions, I think, are still, man, you think about that railway they were building in Kenya,
Yeah.
and what were those two lions called, that whole episode?
Yeah, it was.
Two lions that were killing how many hundreds of people, couple hundred people or something, building a railroad. They made a movie about it. Can't remember the name of it.
Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah, that was it.
The lions of Tsavo.
Yeah, the
which
Tsavo
were
lions.
Maneless lions, which are in one of other of your beautiful museums here in the States.
Yeah, I saw it. I think they're in the museum in Chicago.
Yeah.
Now, what I find rather surprising is that our mountain lions probably have more of a reputation for attacking people and killing people than your leopards.
I've heard more stories in the States of people that have been attacked, and we talked about it yesterday, about people even getting taken off their cycles or bicycles as they were driving along, as I heard from you ladies. So the tendency and the stories I heard that there's a bigger probability getting attacked by a mountain lion.
Yeah, so there were 3 women. I saw some video of them. They were on some sort of a backcountry mountain bike race or something. Yeah. And they were all going fairly close together, and this cat jumps on one of them and takes her down and bites her in the head, and they all had to kill it with a rock and a bicycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but gosh, not too long ago, here within the last month or so, some woman in Colorado was killed by a mountain lion. And I remember a story from a few decades ago, maybe in the 90s or early 2000s, of a young man fit running. I think he was 18 years old or so, and he was a runner and all, so he was really well fit. But he is running, and you know cats, they're looking for their prey, and a deer runs by, they jump it. This guy runs by, cat kills him.
Yeah, so I think if you hear about attacks with cats, lion and leopard, mostly it is with the locals living in these open wild areas rather than on farms or ranches. So there is more stories of that, but I definitely think you've got way more happening in the States than we've got down there. But there are still man-eating leopard and there are still man-eating lions till date.
You know, thinking about this lion and leopard thing, those are the 2 big ones over there, right? Whereas here, it's mountain lion, and then you jump down to lynx, bobcat, margate cat, ocelot, jaguar. Jaguar. That's a big cat. That's like your leopard, only maybe even a little stronger and bigger than that. But you don't hear much about jaguar attacks either. Maybe back in the day, they were famous for livestock kills.
You still hear a lot about tiger attacks, which is not in Africa, but Asia we had quite a story about that. But like you just said, in Africa, those are our 2 main big cats, and that's the lion and the leopard. We don't have any bears or anything that will attack you.
So once you get under the size of a leopard, you're looking at caracal cat?
Yeah, caracal, African wildcat, all these smaller cats
tiny.
Which wouldn't do anything to a human.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if there are more species. Guys, you might want to dig into this and look up cat species of the world, find out how many are in the U.S. or North America, and maybe throw South America in there, because the mountain lion goes clear down to Tierra del Fuego. Yeah. And then look for Africa and find out how many different cats are there. I think we have more cats in North America than you have in Africa.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of smaller cats and cat species in Africa, but on your bigger cats, as we name them, the cheetah is not considered one of the aggressive ones of the cats that
Oh,
we
that's
have.
right, the cheetah. And they're not all that big either. They're a pretty slim, lithe
Slim,
cat.
they have the same or higher off on their feet than a leopard would be, but
They don't have the bulk of a leopard.
they
huh?
don't have a bulk and they don't have the aggression of a leopard.
Yeah. Okay. But what's really the threat over here are the bears.
Yeah.
You know, people will sometimes put up these silly videos of a bear and a lion fighting, which are all made up. They never even see each other on different continents, for Pete's sake. But the bears in this country are the real threats because they're so big, grizzly bears especially. Brown bear is a grizzly bear, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you know a lot about North American bears?
No, only what I heard from stories that have been told to me.
Well, that's the way most people are because they're not running around everywhere. They used to be from roughly the Black Hills of South Dakota, so you're getting pretty far west into the mountains, and then they will go all the way to the coast and then all the way up into Alaska. And so you've got grizzly bears and brown bears, but they're really the same species. The brown bear lives along the coast where it can get a lot of salmon, so it can grow bigger, bigger, bigger. The grizzlies are inland, and they're notoriously more aggressive. And there are more attacks from grizzly bears because they just seem to like they're walking around with a chip on their shoulder all the time. And people stumble into them, and it's just attack right now. They're just not afraid of people. Whereas the brown bears are more laid back. It's like, I don't have to bother you. I'm just going to go fishing. So those, though, this is one right here, brown bear. Not a huge one, but you would imagine getting into the teeth of that thing. Yikes. So the bulk of them, though, I think is what makes a difference. What does a big lion weigh?
A big lion would be the heaviest that I know of that was hunted at the Etosha area was about 600 pounds.
600?
But that is not the typical weight. He's been feeding on quite a number of Brahman cattle, so he was known as Fat Cat. But otherwise, I would say a good lion would be anything from 200 pounds, around the 200 pounds upwards.
Okay.
Depending on the area where they live, the weight is in that way where they are going up from 200 up to 300 pounds.
But they're incredibly strong because they're taking Cape buffalo.
Yeah.
Can a single lion kill a buffalo, or do they have to have the whole pride
A
jump
big
him?
male lion could kill a buffalo.
Could do it.
With the other ones, the lionesses, they typically would use one or two to go for a buffalo, depending on if it's a big bull or a cow or calf, whatever they're going for. And just on the correction on the weights, the weight of a lion depends on the area, habitat, what they eat. Your desert-adapted lions are lighter. So like I said, they can go any range from 300 to 600 pounds.
Yeah. See, well, with our grizzly bears, they're not as huge as a lot of people think necessarily, but they're really stoutly built and got big, massive forearms. And I don't know what the peak weight one of them would be. I'm sure there's a few that get up around 800, but because they live inland from the sea and they have to scrounge up a living eating lots of berries and vegetation, digging up ground squirrels and things like that, they just don't get as big as the brown bears. Now, those will get over 1,000 pounds eating on the fish. But again, I said, not that aggressive. But what impresses me about lions is that for that relatively light weight that they can take down what's a Cape buffalo weighing? About 1,500, 1,800 pounds?
Yeah, they are in kilograms. They're around 900 kilos, which is 1,800 to 2,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Again, depending on area, but they get very heavy. So the lions, typically in the areas where they hunt more on buffalo, they would be heavier, stronger. Like if you look at our desert-adapted lions or the lions that move from the Etosha towards the desert, they are typically in a lighter class because of what they eat, which is oryx, maybe giraffe if they get it to stumble or fall, and those type of species.
But a giraffe would be a difficult animal for even a lion to kill.
And very dangerous.
How heavy are giraffe?
So giraffe are anything from around 2,000 pounds. and upwards, depending on the bull cow, but in the desert also around a very lighter class. And what the lions try and do is just get them to fall or stumble.
They
And
have to
then,
get that head and neck down to their level, don't they?
correct. And once they get them down, or they use something on a higher elevation to jump on them, they had their success rates. And we now even see that a lioness is living right on the Skeleton Coast, and her main diet has now turned to be the Cape fur seal. So it's very interesting that she adapted, and that was one of the dreams of our researchers, that they adapt to eating seals.
Yeah, because they've got big seal colonies right on the Skeleton Coast of Namibia. Yeah. I've flown over them with a certain pilot I know, and there are a lot of seals down there, and if some lion would discover that meat source, I guess he'd be a pretty happy fat cat.
A fun story with Betsy is when we were hunting her impala, and we had that great hunt, and as she shot the impala, that huge black-maned lion came out of the papyrus reeds and walked up to us and lay on that termite mound, lifting his tail, waving his tail at us, just growling and going at it.
Roaring,
and it was just, went through every body of us, and our hair was raising, but it was really amazing. And he sort of telling us, why did you take one of my impalas away?
That's what it sure looked like. It sounded like. It was amazing, guys. Betsy made this beautiful shot on an impala, put it right down, and as we walked up to it, we started hearing this, this lion roar. And if you've never heard one in person, it's what you said, it goes through you. You feel the vibrations deep inside.
What a memory.
Like, whoa. And Werner says, look at that lion. And it got up on a termite mound, which raised it above the grass so you could see all of it, and was standing up there looking at us, flicking its tail like you see in the movies, ticked off lion.
And lay down very proud and said, you're not going to do anything to me.
Yeah, you just laid there and watched us, and we very carefully got that impala out of there. But that was an adventure. That was the same trip where we saw the leopards in broad daylight. That was different.
Two different leopards in broad daylight. What an amazing trip we
had. And we saw that pride of lions in a different day. That was a cat hunt that time. We weren't hunting any of them, but they were around, and that's one of the great thrills of Africa. But I guess it's a similar thing with Alaska, the North Country. You go up there and you want to see a grizzly bear or a brown bear or a polar bear. You go to Africa, you want to see lions and leopards and all these dangerous critters, and they're certainly there. But now, what about protecting yourself? People will say, well, the chances of something attacking you don't be silly. You don't need anything. But with the person that's been attacked and chewed up, like these 3 bikers, they survived. Only one of them was actually bitten and attacked by that. But still, they spent 55 minutes trying to kill that cat, hitting it with a rock, and they put their bicycle up on top of it and all this different stuff. So if that would have been me, I would have said, why don't I have a gun? I mean, what else are you going to use to fight off an animal with those kind of teeth that jumps you like that? Years ago, I think it was 1990 or 92, right around in there, Sports Afield magazine had me do a story on mountain lions killing people. What's the truth? So I did a bunch of research, and at that time, I came up with 13 verifiable cases of cougars having killed people in North America. Doesn't sound like much, 13, unless you're one of the 13. Then it starts to sound like a pretty significant number. But there have been many since, these 3 bikers, and then that male jogger in Colorado, and just recently a woman, and I think the Boulder area. So it's something to be thinking about if you're outdoors, even with black bears. People go, it's just a black bear, but they have actually killed more people than grizzlies in this country. And it's mostly because they're everywhere. They're coast to coast and from the Arctic clear down into Mexico. So people are bumping into them more often. They're not all that aggressive, but with those numbers, there was a Boy Scout camp, I think, down in Utah not too many years ago where a black bear came in and killed one of the scouts. So that stuff happens. What do you need to defend yourself?
So in Namibia, you're not allowed as a client to bring in any handguns. So you're only allowed to bring your rifle with you. We as professional hunters typically always just have our rifles with us. That's the only time I take a handgun with me, like in the 45 caliber or 44 caliber, would be on a follow-up on a leopard, that you have it on your side. It was just personal preference. One thing I learned from my dad is have your 375 or your with you, open sights or with a red dot and your handgun on the side and on your belt. That is just from person to person. I know many have their shotgun with them, and I would never judge anybody because I think it is your personal preference and what you grow up with. But typically for us, the bigger caliber that you have shouldered while you're out there.
So your rifle is your main defense.
That's correct.
You've got to have it anyway. You're hunting all day. You've got to protect your clients in case anything untoward happens, and that's going to be your first defense.
Yeah.
But if a cat jumps you, you lose your rifle. You've got something on your person. You can pull that handgun out, perhaps.
So handgun and then a knife that you should have on your belt. But definitely the handgun is going to be the better option. It is easier said than done. If that cat jumps on you and goes for your neck and goes for you, what you're going to react and how you're going to react and how quick. I tell you, there are so many stories. We've seen so many videos and clips of it. I tell you, when it starts roaring and coming for you, you better keep your cool. Oof. And the old professional hunter had the best saying. He said, aim for a point on your target and not just at the cat or the lion or the buffalo. Just use a specific point, and like you've seen in many, to get, if you've got the time, and it depends on the area, if you can get down on your knee and try and get an eye level with
level shot.
Level shot can help you a lot.
Yeah, we hear that with bears here too. Same deal. They're charging, and if you're aiming at from above down at them, when they get close enough, they're running out from underneath that shot. But if you're down at their level, now you're going in. That makes perfect sense. And so you're generally going to have like a 375 H&H or maybe even a 416 or something like that. But what about your clients? You know, you said if I come over there and hunt with you, I can't even bring a handgun. So I've got to depend on you to keep me covered, right?
And that's the danger, is that before you go into any situations like that, is you really have to have a good discussion amongst each other how you're going to approach this dangerous animal or wounded animal. What are you going to do in the case, because the danger of shooting each other has been there, or somebody shooting from the back. So always listen to your professional hunter, look at the situation, and you'll be safe. I think you'll be safe if you don't move off, if you don't run away. Typically when somebody tends to run away, that's when the PH doesn't have any control anymore of helping.
Oh boy.
So analyze the situation and listen to the person that is in control.
Now, this possibility, I think, encourages a lot of hunters to say, well, I'm going hunting, even though I'm not hunting buffalo, I'm taking a 375 or 416 or something big, because by golly, if I get attacked by a lion or even a hippo, I mean, hippos supposedly kill more people in Africa every year than lions and leopards and Cape buffalo put together. So they get something really big, but is that the right move for them to make? I mean, should they say, well, I'm going to do all my hunting with a 416 or a 375 just in case? Have you ever had someone defend themselves from a charge from any of these animals with their rifle?
Yes, we had it, and they did a good job at it. We were positioned next to each other far apart that we could have a safe shooting at the charging animal, and it worked out well. Another thing, cats, if you specifically are going not on a buffalo but on cats, it's the same as with antelope. Rather using a 250 grain or 270 grain will do better, because they are soft skinned, those animals, than a 300 grain. You want to have more penetration or expenditure. If you're shooting a 375 H&H, typically it's a 300 grain bullet, but you're saying that's a little too heavy for these lighter skinned cats and stuff? Correct.
Okay, so you'd
the
go with
same like we talked on a kudu or whatever, you could have the same happen.
Ah, gotcha.
But if it's what you have on you, you're going to be using it. But the same, if you just go for a leopard, your 300 or your 30-06 or whatever might be a better option. A 300 for a lion, or 375 for 16. But I like that 250 grain or 270 grain for a lion would be a better option. A softer bullet, which would do more damage than a harder swift A-frame, which might just fly through the lion. It's just an idea, a personal thing. I know everyone has their way of thinking, but that is what I feel would be
it makes
preference.
sense. It makes sense. If a lion is like a cougar, fairly light-skinned and all, You just need to get that bullet into the vitals.
Correct.
So you want some penetration, but you don't need a straight line penetration that's adequate for buffalo and elephant on a cat. So you want some bullet expansion to do more damage as it's going through there. Well, what about the typical hunter? I'm over there hunting with you, and I want my kudu and my eland and things, but I'm taking along a reasonable cartridge, 30-06 up to 300 magnums of some kind, maybe a 35 Whalen, or my wife likes to shoot the 308 Winchester or a 7mm 08, somewhere in there. I would always say just use the right bullet in that, the heavier one. You're not going to use a 130 grain in your 30-06 or your 308. You'd use a 165 or a 180 or something on the heavier end in case you did have to shoot that animal coming at you. But then if I'm the hunter and there's a, oops, here he comes, your major responsibility is to take that.
Yeah.
But if you somehow fail, it turns into my responsibility, especially if that cat's coming right at you and it starts clawing on you and everything else. Now I've got to try to get the cat off of you without shooting you through the cat, so a softer bullet's probably going to help with that as well.
Correct. So definitely, if you can judge your client or friend walking with you, do that before or ahead of time, because once that situation gets hot, it can be very dangerous. If the cat is on you and the decision making on when to shoot, when to pull the trigger is going to play a big role, and you want to get that leopard or lion dead as quick as possible.
But I've heard more than one horror story where the client shot the PH because the cat was on top of him.
Yeah.
You can't just shoot down through the cat. You've got to spend a few seconds to get the right shot angle, so you're... he would have made it if his buddy hadn't shot him.
It's difficult to judge somebody before it happens because every human reacts totally different when the situation arises.
I can imagine.
So it is good to talk about it, to keep it fresh in mind, and to go through these situations. So it's good that you have your good tracker team with you, and rather hold your client back and go up front. And really tell him only to shoulder the gun if really necessary, because like you said, there are a lot of horror stories. We had a PH in Namibia where his knee got blown off because the client thought of doing something good, shooting from the back, and he took the professional hunter's knee apart. Luckily, the professional hunter could kill the leopard before he dropped to the ground. So yeah, it's not an easy hunt or easy judgment. But that is what we do for a job, for a living.
Well, that's the thing. As the hunter, you think, well, I'm a competent hunter, and I know what I would do if a lion attacked. I would very calmly get into a low position to shoot across and not shoot down through him, and et cetera, et cetera. And then when it happens, you just go to pieces.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a little bit of experience, or who knows, we all tend to think like we're going to play Superman, but gee whiz. Now, I know one guy who did play Superman. But he was extremely experienced. It was a bear, brown bear, and it attacked the professional hunter. In Alaska, they call them master guides. Yeah. Master guide Phil Shoemaker, and we had him on a video a while back, or a podcast. Fascinating story. Of course, he has been doing this, guiding bear hunters for, late 70s, I think. And he was guiding fishermen. And this bear attacked. He knows the bears in his area.
Yeah.
You get to know them. They have the same habits and same areas and everything else. And so it's just like it was a young male, and he'd seen him before, and he knew him, and he just didn't think he'd have a problem. It apparently had a fight with a different bear and was ticked off. So when the fisherman came along with Phil, he decided he's going to take it out on them, and he charged them. And they dropped into the tall grass. The bear ran over there and couldn't see them because of the tall grass, but he was standing right over them, maybe even on them, looking, where are they, where are they? Phil, their protector and guide, is standing there with a 9mm Luger, this little guy right here. 147 grain bullet, not going very fast, but it was a hard cast bullet, and he had practiced with it and tested it, and he knew that it was going to be able to penetrate, and that's the key, is penetration. So he shot that bear right behind his shoulder for a heart shot. He had the presence of mind to do this kind of stuff because he'd been in on many, many, many bear kills over the years. Pop, 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 pop. He said every time I'd pop him, he would spin his head around like, what just bit me in the side? And then he'd go back to start looking for these people again, so he'd pop them again. And then after the fourth hit, the bear decided it was time to leave, and he took off. Phil said, I shot him going away just one time before my brain kicked in, and I, wait a minute, why am I shooting now? I don't want to bring him back. He's supposed to be running away. That's what I want. So it ran off about, I don't know, less than 50 yards. I think he said it was 30 yards, and fell over dead. Because those 147 grain little 9mm bullets had gone through the heart. And he saved somebody's life. Now, most people say, are you a complete fool? You can't kill a bear with a 9mm. Au contraire, Blue Eyes. It happens. So the point is, something is better than nothing. And then there was a story, another PH or master guide up in Alaska told me about some, I think it was a newly married couple, and they were having this fun outdoor adventure and honeymoon in a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and this bear was bugging them and bugging them. I don't remember if it was a grizzly or a brown or a black bear. It was either a black or a grizzly. But they had a .22 handgun, and instead of using it on that bear, he climbed up on the roof, and the guy, I think, said, I'm going to run for help. And he left his wife up on that roof with the bear going around it. And he ran for help. Well, by the time he got back, the bear had gotten up on the roof and she was dead. And they never shot at it with a .22. Were they of the mind that a .22 is not going to do any good? Well, their grizzly bears have been killed with .22 long rifles. There's famous stories about people doing that. Something's better than nothing. So would that apply to your animals as well? Would you just as soon have something that will send a projectile into that animal than nothing at all?
I would definitely, if it came to that case, I would definitely do that for the safety of who you've got with you and for yourself. You rather shoot at it than, or first of all, try and get it to run away before you put a bullet into it. But after that, if it gets to a certain range, aim at a point and make sure you hit it properly.
Now, if you had a puny cartridge like a 9mm or a 38 or a .22 long rifle, where would you aim?
You would try go for the brain.
You just between the eyes?
Between the eyes.
Because that's likely what's going to
that's most of the time you're going to be seeing. You're not going to have much more of that, rather brain or that frontal shot. But you really have to be careful with your cats because there are very strong muscles sitting on top of their skulls.
Plus that
so that
slope.
you can get it in up front and you have this muscle. So when it's sort of more pointed like this, it's going to be pretty difficult. So aiming for the nose, getting it in there.
The nose. That would be good. Let's just let that jaw go. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So it would be right where his little black nostrils are, because that bullet would go straight back up into the brain right there, wouldn't it? Whereas if it's down like this and you got all that muscle. And what Werner's saying, guys, is absolutely right. When I shot this mountain lion and we started skinning it and dressing it out and everything, by the way, they're delicious. The meat on here was thick. I couldn't believe how much muscle was on that. And then when we started carving it off, how tough it was.
So imagine if they charge you, there's so much adrenaline and everything in the muscle that it hardens up. So there's so much strength that you typically have a problem with, even with a shotgun. If you've got the wrong slugs or ammunition, not a slug, but your pellets, it will be very difficult to penetrate that muscle.
Now, that's a good point. A lot of guys say, oh, your 12 gauge, man, that's the best for all this protection stuff. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Buckshot, for instance. Well, okay, but if your biggest buckshot, I think, is a .32 caliber, each ball, and there are only about 8 to 10 of them in the shell. So if the animal is really close, it should work just great. But if he's out there a little bit farther, some of those pellets are not going to hit, and each one of them does not have the drive, the energy to penetrate necessarily deeply. So I don't know, but I guess if it were, say, 10 yards in closing, I think it would probably work pretty well.
Yeah, it would work well on a very close distance.
Yeah.
But I had a case with a leopard where I shot on a 15 to 10 yards, and it didn't do anything to that leopard. I ignored my dad's advice, and I know I don't want to go against any professional hunters. There are many of our neighboring countries that have great success. They've got the right shotgun shell for it. I had those copper pellets in there, and I took 2 shots at the leopard, and luckily he didn't charge. He turned the other way, and then used my 375 on him there. So it is just, like I said, it's a personal preference. It is what you think is best, and everyone should do their judgment, especially the professional hunters that have a lot of experience, like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, with their leopards. Do what you think is safe for you, and they need to follow them up at night because they've got other predators that might eat the leopard, damage the skin or the trophy. So
Or the leopard might damage somebody. He's
correct.
wounded and ticked off, and somebody comes walking along and he takes them out. So yeah, you've got a responsibility there. You know, that's good advice. The other thing about, let's say, a charging animal, you know, people still, even fairly experienced hunters will say, well, shoot him in the heart, that'll kill him. Well, sure, it'll kill him after how many seconds? They stay alive for quite a long time with a heart shot. You don't need a heart to have your brain stay attack, attack, attack until they lose enough blood pressure that they get dizzy and then they fall over. So if you say, well, I'm just going to shoot him right here in the chest because that's going to go right back into his heart, yeah, that'll kill him, but you might be dead by the time he dies.
So definitely a brain or spine shot will save you more than it would be shooting for the heart if he's coming straight for you. Because anyway, where you're going to try and get to the heart, if the head is down or wherever, your chest is typically going to be closed. So you'll only have a brain or spine possibility.
Now, what about putting that bullet in the face? Obviously, you're trying for the brain, but you don't quite make the right shot, and you end up shooting him in the mouth. Are you going to disable him with hitting him in the mouth, the nose, the eyeball, or something where you don't actually get to the brain?
It depends on the size of the bullet you're using. So if you're using your 375 and upwards, or your 4.58s, that's why as professional hunters we tend to shoot heavier calibers, which they talk about the stopping power, but you want to, if you didn't hit it properly, it will definitely disorientate the animal for a second or two, but that's where you have to reload pretty quick and get another shot or 2 or 3 in it.
Now, I have heard, this gets away from the cats and bears a little bit, but I have heard that in Africa with the stopping rifles, I just don't believe there's a stopping rifle, because if you don't hit the spine or the brain, you don't stop them.
You don't stop.
You're going to slow them down faster and all, but there is that part about dissuading them. Now, they say that you can shoot a buffalo, big old Cape buffalo, multiple times and not depend on it deterring him. He keeps coming. Whereas with an elephant, I've heard that you can hit them fairly close with a 470 nitro, 458, and those big elephant guns, and it does turn them to run away.
Yeah.
That's just a specific species, the way they react.
Yeah, and a buffalo is like a freight train. When it comes for you, it's just one direction.
It's not going to stop coming till you break him down. Huh? So on the buffalo charges, are you looking for the brain with that big old boss on top of them? That's a pretty tough shot when they're moving. Or do you try to get in the spine? Is that even an option?
It really depends on how it comes. Typically, they'll have a risen nose.
Their nose is kind of right at you?
Correct, and you would be aiming for the nose. If they tend to go down in the last moment, typically, where they put the head down, you would try and get it under the boss.
Under the boss,
brain it. But yeah, it is case by case, and we've seen a number of accidents in the last year and the previous years. It is really, what are you going to have in front of you? Are there trees? Are there brushes? How is he going to move? Those are all split seconds, and I think everyone does the best judgment he can. And like I said, just keep that in mind, aim for a specific point and not just aim at the animal in general.
You know, I've seen so many of these little video clips now. You get them on your Instagram and Facebook and all this stuff, and it's just amazing. There'll be a lion bursting out of the shrubbery, and you hear bang, 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 everybody's shooting, and the lion is being hit, and he just keeps coming. And he jumps on one guy or jumps over one guy. It seems like they always pick one person out, and they just stick to him the whole time. And he'll be tearing him up, and people will be yelling and screaming, and suddenly he falls dead. And then, oh yeah, he's shot full of holes. You've hit him in the heart, the lungs a couple of times. You can even break a leg, and he just keeps coming.
So it's typically better not to bunch up and rather spread out a bit, because then you make it more difficult for this attacking animal to decide who's he going to go for. And then that everyone is prepared. It is, although you might lead as a professional hunter with your trackers, but always keep an eye, and the client also keep an eye on what your professional hunter is doing.
So you don't want your client right behind you.
Yeah, and what is the other thing? And it happens in so many hunts. The first few minutes, everyone is concentrated, everyone is listening, and as it gets to a few minutes more or to a half an hour, you just see people start losing their concentration, start moving around, and that's typically
when it happens.
Ooh,
yeah. What am I thinking of? We were on a bear hunt, and my buddy Tom made what I thought was a perfect shot on this brown bear coming down a stream. Broadside shot on the shoulder, and it leaped up the bank into the bushes and gone. Yeah. And the PH or the master guide thought, "Oh, that's not good. You made a bad shot." And I thought, I don't know. It looked pretty good to me. But he said, "We're not going in there for a long time because it was thick alders, and you get in that and you got trouble." So we waited, I think, a couple of hours. And we finally went in, and it was the master guide, his apprentice guide. I think the apprentice had a 12-gauge shotgun, either with slugs or buckshot, big buckshot. And then Tom with his 338 Win Mag, and I with my camera. Yeah. I was a little bit behind everybody else for some strange reason. But just what you said, the master guide spread everybody out. So I think he was in the middle, and his guy was on one side, and the master guide was following the tracks. The other guy concentrated on the brush, didn't look for tracks or any kind of sign of where the bear was going. Just if the bear busts out, you're going to hit him hard. Same with Tom. So 2 guys flanking were assigned to shoot the bear if it came, where he could then look at the blood trail, and obviously he was looking up as well. But, if you're going to be blood trailing, you got to spend quite a bit of time with your nose on the ground. And I was just behind him with the camera, hoping I would capture something that would get me 1 million views. Guess what we found? A dead bear. Perfect shot through the heart. Yeah. He just ran. Yeah, he probably went 100, 150 yards. Yeah. But it was a great shot, and it did him in. So, but that's the point, though. Even if that bear takes the perfect shot through the shoulders, broke the shoulder, one shoulder, heart and lungs, you figure, well, that's going to kill him, and it did nicely. But he went 100, 150 yards. Imagine what, if you'd have been in the way, what would have happened? How many swats does it take from the claws of a grizzly bear before you're hash? Same thing with lions?
Yeah, that would be about the same.
And then buffalo, we're talking carnivores here because they always strike us as the most dangerous. But really, your buffalo is more dangerous than your cats, isn't it?
Yeah, for me, still the most dangerous is your leopard, because it's such a small target, and he's just amazingly intelligent on how he's going to hide and wait on you.
Oh, yeah?
So because of being a small target, it's typically the one that can hurt you most. But there are more people that had been hurt by buffalo over the years. So buffalo is very dangerous. You better, when that amount of weight and velocity comes at you, you better shoot straight, because
I think that it surprises folks who see them. When you go to the parks and stuff and you see Cape buffalo, and it just looks like a bunch of cattle. Yeah. And they're fairly calm. And even when I'm hunting them, there's a big herd, and they're usually nice and calm. We've gotten within about 70 yards of big herds, and people think, oh, my gosh, they're going to charge. And they don't. They run away from you unless they're injured or it's an irascible old bull. Correct. And the old irascible bulls, I think, are like old irascible humans. Yeah. You get to a certain age and you got these aches and pains, and you don't want to put up with anybody, and you just The difference is the buffalo can decide to go on you with his horns and do you in a hurry. Yeah. Wasn't there a case last year while we were hunting where we heard that another hunter had been killed by a buffalo not too far away?
It was terrible. Also on a follow-up, and the buffalo charged, and they all got shots on the buffalo. But like we just said, it didn't stop him, and it got him to hit the professional hunter and hurt him or break his neck. And it's really bad. It's what happens in those cases, in those thick brush, is very dangerous, and it happens way quicker than we anticipate. It often it comes when you least expect it, or when the concentration is on a low. But on that specific one, it looked like everyone was concentrating, everyone was right on their tracking, but it happened so quick. There was not much time for error.
It is amazing how well they can hide in some what looks like fairly scanty brush. That time we were in the swamp with all the big tall reeds, and we had to get up on the termite mounds to look, and there they were within range, two big old Duggaboy bulls. And if we'd have kept going through that grass and jumped right into them, they'd have been on us in a split second.
If they were irritated or one was wounded, it could happen so quick.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. So you need to be ready, but as you said, it's more about understanding the situation and not just bumbling and stumbling, and then depending on your master guide or your professional hunter to really watch for that and pay attention to him. If he says, we're not going here, don't try to overrule him. He's got a reason for that. It's like, this is a dangerous place to go into. Let's not do it.
That's correct.
Now, if you have a client who has wounded a leopard or a buffalo and stuff, do you like to have the client stay away and you go in there and finish the job, or do you generally let them come along?
I'll analyze the situation beforehand and see how we can handle the situation together. Or if I think it is too dangerous, I'd rather go in there alone with my trackers. Or if I have somebody in the vicinity, another professional hunter, I'd rather get in another professional hunter to walk in with you, because at the end is you don't have to prove anyone what you are and how you are. It's safety first, and it will be, you've got family, you've got friends, you've got people that still want to have you back home in one piece. So make the judgment and make a safe judgment. And I think the clients respect that. If you brief them, if you talk to them about the situation, they wouldn't be mad at you if you analyze it in the right way. And communication is the most important part.
See, this explains for me, and I've often wondered about this, that time and I shot an animal and he would not let me follow it up. There was the blood trail, and Werner said, no, you stay back. This is too dangerous. And I stayed, I was probably 30 to 50 yards behind you, and we kept tracking until finally we found the animal. Fortunately, it was already expired, but there it lay, 120-pound impala.
That sounds good.
That was pretty dangerous. But that is another point. Some of those antelope over there with the big curly horns and whatnot all can be pretty dangerous when
they can. I had it in different cases. The oryx is very dangerous. I had it with the wildebeest. I had it with the black wildebeest. The ones that you expected the least. I had them charge me. It's not going to happen again. It was a once in a lifetime, but you have it like in humans. You have got some that are more aggressive than others, and that might still want to go for you, or they were just in a situation where the only way out was your direction. So however the case might have been, you handle it and always be careful and look at the situation. Yeah.
Well, over here, people think, oh, moose are really, really dangerous, and they can be, but it's usually the cows with a calf rather than your big old bull. There are occasions where the bull is rut crazed and all, and he sees somebody and he just comes over there and decides to give him a charge. But your antelopes are so used to defending themselves from lions and leopards, and they learn how to use those sharp, pointy horns. I think they're a lot more dangerous.
Or they might be coming for your dog, and what does the dog do? Runs for safety to you. So there have been cases where that also happens, and the animal was actually not going for you, but chasing the dog.
And there you are.
So it's always the situation that you get into. Analyze it and make the best out of it.
Yeah. Now, when clients come over to hunt with you, do you discuss these things ahead of time, playing line? Listen.
Yeah. So yes, Ron, to answer your questions, we try and do that at the shooting range. We start to go through a lot of information, and while we're hunting and while we're walking and we've got time waiting on the truck or whatever, to go through scenarios and go through shot placements. The shooting range is always a good place to do that, because you can judge on how your client is shooting, how he has his trigger pull, and then you can go and practice or go through final steps on shooting sticks and safety for the hunt.
Okay. Well, that's some good advice. How often do you hear in Africa of someone being killed by one of your big cats?
Not too often.
Pretty rare now, isn't it?
Pretty rare.
And I would imagine a lot of that is because, as most people probably don't understand, wild Africa is not really there anymore. Most places, you've got people and growing cities and all the rest of it, so you don't have as many lions as you used to have.
It really depends on the country you are in, but I think if I speak for Namibia, there are rare cases of that, where it might be in our neighboring countries that they have more cases of that. So if I answer that question, it's more based on my experience in Namibia.
Namibia rather than Kenya or Tanzania, stuff like that. So yeah, I guess the best advice is just for every hunter going over there, or even a photo client, is to listen to your professional who's guiding you. It's his job to keep you safe, and he knows how best to do it.
That's correct.
All right, Werner.
Yeah.
Want to really, thank you for stopping by and sharing with us. If people are interested in actually going to Africa, whether it's on a photo safari or a hunt, you can accommodate them?
Definitely we can, and you can make contact through Ron Spomer. He will have all the information, or contact me directly. We'll have my number on there, which you can phone me on WhatsApp or FaceTime audio, or write me an email on immenofhunting@gmail.com or hunting@iway. We'll get the right information to you to make contact.
All right, folks. That's the way to stay safe and protected when you're in Africa. Just stay behind Werner. Yeah. But if you're over here and you bump into a mountain lion, you better be prepared to defend yourself. And I personally would recommend something like even a 9mm. Cats aren't that tough, but some handgun that you can shoot comfortably and accurately at close range. None of them are super accurate at long ranges, but something that you can get out and make your shot when that cat is either coming at you or already on you or something. It just, I know it sounds a little bit like, oh, come on, what are your chances? But when that happens, you don't want to have to fight him off with your bicycle and bash him with a rock. If you've got a tiny little handgun that you can easily carry around with you and get access to quickly, 357, 38, 9mm, 10mm, you don't need the big 44 Magnums or the 500 Magnums or anything like that. But be ready to protect yourself. I don't know about sprays. Bear sprays are pretty well accepted by a lot of folks up in the North Country to keeping bears at bay. I don't know how they work on cougar. Never really heard about anybody spraying a cougar with this stuff. But look into any and all of it, because ultimately it is your responsibility. It is your life. You have decided to go hunting, fishing, berry picking in country that might have a cougar or a lion or a bear or anything else that could attack you kind of on your own. So what do they say? God takes care of those who take care of themselves?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, hey, while you're out there, take care and always hunt honest and shoot straight.